Yo, how's it going? So I had a couple questions. I had a couple people ask me, "Hey, if I wanted to play this game, what are your opinions on starting out, just the beginning?" So this video is going to address that. We're gonna hop around a bunch. You can pause it, you can rewind it, and just make sure you get the information if you are interested. And most of the ideas and philosophy will carry over into other action RPGs, um, and technically other MMOs. All right. So you want to select a character. If there's a game that has a cycle or a season or potential limited content, always I would always play it over the legacy content. In this game, they're the exact same, and they'll be the exact same for the next year or so after they finish their roadmap of 4 cycles. So when it says 1.4, that'll be the end of the roadmap, and it'll be the fourth cycle. So you want to select a character. Now, this is where we hop into playstyles. There's a bunch of different videos all over YouTube that go over it. But real quick, we'll have like your generic super tanky builds and the sub masteries. Okay, so the sub masteries have a unique set of skills that are available either only to them or they are available to unlock with mastery points. Okay, it'll be a passive tree. We'll show you that in a little bit. For the Sentinel, the base nodes or passive trees really give you a lot of survivability. They cover most of your resistances in the game, and they give a decent amount of healing and or ward generation. And so this would be a tanky class, but everything does damage, right? Popular classes right now are Paladin. There's a very, very strong build in Paladin. It's probably the strongest of the group, and then probably Forge Guard after that because of Smelter's Wrath is just incredible. It is a huge AoE. It covers your entire screen. And then Void Knight's kind of niche, usually somewhere in between the two, but the Void damage is pretty much unique and specific only to this character, and if it gets spread out to other classes, it might make it stronger or weaker. So we just have to see. Okay. Rogue, your typical assassin and or marksman build. Your strongest class or sub mastery in the entire game is probably Falconer. It does everything. You have a Falcon. You have a pet or a companion that doesn't have its own health bar. It never dies. It scales off of its own damage and your damage and everything Falcon related. It has its own ability to attack. Falcon triggers here and here. It can drop these. It can throw these for you too. It does everything. It's very, very good. It's very, very strong. It's very, very safe of a build. And there's a lot of different unique builds you can play with it. Marksman is your typical bow using class. I'm probably going to have a little bit of gameplay later on with Detonating Arrow being a melee ability and not a bow attack, but it's just as good on bows. And then a Blade Dancer is a melee class, and it specifies in or specializes in bleed and creating shadows. So they're all really fun in their own way. I've built each one this cycle. I find them really easy. Like once you get going on your gear, you get a little bit of gear, you get a couple of your abilities specialized. You start doing a lot more damage, and it's you have a lot of dodge. So the defensive capability is dodge here. Now we're gonna skip over these two. We're gonna go to Warlock, because I'm gonna give you another example of really easy classes to play. Necromancer, you summon things for yourself, and they either auto detonate and blow up all the other enemies around you, or they're really really big and they're really really beefy and they just smack things anyway. So lazy builds or starter builds are going to be companion related and or super super tanky with high damage. Necromancer gets there. Warlock gets there on the super super tanky front. There's abilities of going immune basically and not being able to take damage, healing, or generating a lot of ward. Lich, kind of on the rougher side. As you can see, they have 5 skills available to them. They only have 4. Classes that either only have 4 or are older. Like Warlock is newer than Necromancer. Necromancer is older. Older classes or sub-masteries tend to need a little bit of help on the update front. But there is a really cool build that I've been working on where you use your life on drain life instead of mana, which is a resource instead of whatever resource you're doing. And in this game is only mana and rage, which I'll get into next. I sacrifice life instead, and then it heals me for the entire portion, basically, and it's awesome. So, yeah, I think it's cool. We'll see how good it does later on. But yeah, Necro. So, strongest classes so far have been Paladin, Falconer, Necro. Then we're gonna hop over here. We're gonna do Beastmaster is probably the strongest class over here. Again, it's another companion build. The strongest thing for this is probably the Frenzy Totem and the fact that you can scale your attack speed really, really high. Along with, like, every time you would trigger, like, a buff for your companions, you give it to yourself, too. And so that's how you're going to be able to really do a lot of personal damage, and you have your, companions or pets running around and doing other things for you. Shaman, a little bit older class. It is getting a little bit of love on the next patch. It's getting a little bit more help. If you notice, you have a totem here, a totem here, a totem here, right? 3 totems to use. Well, Shaman can't have access to the Beastmaster one. So Shaman only has Thorn Totem, Storm Totem. However, they're able to change either Warcry to a totem. So 3 totems. We might have a better totem build for Shaman, but we're not really. That build doesn't take advantage of Earthquake or Avalanche or Tornado. They're in this kind of like weird spot where Tornado would technically be the best Shaman build for it, but it's only because the Tornado triggers lightning bolts, and then it's just weird. But it is getting some help for totems, and I'm hoping it gets a little bit more quality of life help. Maybe another ability would be cool, like a volcano. So, Druid is your shape-shifting class. It's going to be very, very tanky, generally speaking. It has a lot of good movement speed, and all 3 different transformations played completely different. Your Swarmblade, you're super fast, you're agile, you're dashing through, you scale a lot of into physical or cold. Your Spriggan form, again, they all go physical or cold for some reason, but they're all really, really strong. And Swarmblade is a little bit tankier because you can either do dodge rate or you can convert the dodge into armor, so then you're mitigating damage. You also have it's kind of a combo thing. So you create a bunch of companions around you, up to like 20, and then you consume them. And then when you consume them, you do a lot more damage around you in like a giant AoE. So you can double stack AoEs around your player, and then you look like a Roomba just cutting through enemies and just erasing them. Your Spriggan form is going to be kind of a caster-like build where you're using vines, thorns. There's some shields in there, and you're just doing a little bit of AoE around you and like homing, targeting missiles at your opponent. And again, physical and cold. It's pretty good. They scale into totems as well. They scale into summoning copies of yourself. They're just watered down versions. I don't know what this ability actually does. I don't think anybody uses it. I think it's cool. It's supposed to like just again root enemies and help with survivability, but you can pretty much ignore it. I wouldn't use it. The Primalist base skills are just a lot better. Last Druid class is going to be Werebear. It's going to be the tankiest of the group. Spriggan form is almost the opposite of Werebear. It's generally squishy unless you get specific gear for Spriggan. Werebear, on the other end, naturally tanky. You heal a lot. You generate a lot of resources to use your abilities. And you have a couple, like 2 uniques that drastically benefit Werebear a lot, and one of them is just a neutral helmet. And again, physical and cold damage. Now we're going to hop into our last class. Probably the second best sub-mastery in the game is going to be Rune Master. And Rune Master is a combo-oriented class where you have... It's a class I haven't played too much about, but I have seen some crazy things on other people's YouTubes, other people's accounts, personal friends. They are insane. Their defensive capabilities aren't health-oriented. They're not resistant-based. They're ward-based. So, Warlock makes a lot of ward specifically, but the other builds utilize health more. All of Druids utilize health. Rogue should be utilizing health the whole time. Paladin gets to choose. Rune Master doesn't get to choose. You generate so much ward, it would be foolish not to. So you get your ward pool up to like 6,000 to 8,000 hit points. You now have like 10,000 health. You're not going to die to almost anything in any one-shot capability. You're going to live right through it. You don't have to worry about anything other than that. Your ability is going to do a lot of damage. You're going to do some combos. They have specific names, okay? Like Raw, Gone, Hill. And they're going to utilize a couple things. So I would say this is one of the most in-depth classes, and I would probably look up a guide if you want to play something that involves your cast order mattering or specific gear to do a specific build. They have a lot of support, a lot of unique and legendary gear specified for each rune. So this is something that you'll need more resources to do, but it is a very, very strong. Another very strong subclass that I've played a lot, I've played the Flame Wreath, and I played the Shadow Strike. The Shadow Strike seems to be a little bit better for consistency and survivability because you generate a lot more ward. You generate, or you freeze your enemies, so you're generating a higher health pool, and they're frozen, and then you're able to move around pretty fast. A Flame Wreath, you do a lot of damage on one ability, and then you wait about 3-4 seconds, and then you do it again. Sorcerer is in a kind of a weird spot where its best build is Rune Master's best build, but without all the right tools for it. So it's going to take advantage of the same things. It's going to generate a fair amount of ward. They all generate a fair amount of ward. This one is going to be on the weaker side. and it's going to have a lot of high cost skills. You're going to have a larger mana pool, and some builds include Meteor, some builds include Ice Barrage. Mine includes Black Hole because I just think it's fun. Hopefully they add some more things for support for this Sub Mastery because it definitely needs it. It needs a flavor up. I don't understand this ability at all. You sacrifice movement, like, so you have to stand still while you're channeling it or when it's instant. And yeah, I just don't like it, so I wouldn't recommend it. But yeah, that's all the sub masteries in the game. All right. Now I'm going to explain the rough goal for the game. The rough goal is to finish the campaign. You get here. When you start unlocking these, you'll probably be anywhere between level 50 and 60. And you want to go through these. You want to go on the right side if you're strong enough. If you feel like you're not strong enough to do this one specifically, go down over here. Okay, but try to do the first 3 this way, and then try to push for your 80s, then finish all your 90s first. Once you finish all of these, all the 90s and this 85, everyone that's connecting to this middle island, because you have to do this one to get to these, it'll unlock empowered versions of them where they're all level 100. And then you're in corruption territory. Once you get there, it's make or break. If your build is good enough or strong enough, then you should be able to get small upgrades that keep you alive or keep you dealing more and more damage. With that being said, if you're not strong enough, either A, your build needs to change, or B, the way you play your build needs to change. For me, when I was playing on my Spellblade, it was really, really easy on Flame Wreath to clear out the monoliths, but it was not easy to do boss damage, and it was not easy to do empowered monoliths because I would die. I was running in too fast. I was using up my cooldowns too fast. And I didn't have the protection that I needed, and I didn't have the damage when I needed it. So I changed to Shatter Strike, and it ended up solving that because I just swapped out one ability. That's it. And that's helping me either stay alive because I'm generating a little bit more ward, or it's allowing me to maintain my high health pool. So when you get here, my number one rule for advice is your playstyle is going to not be dictated by the subclass that you pick. All of the subclasses you can play at 100 corruption, at 200 corruption, 300 corruption, every submastery. Most builds are going to be able to get there too. You just have to either identify the weakness and play around it, or upgrade past it or use a different skill to get over that weakness. So your playstyle is going to change over time, and the amount of knowledge that you have in the game, the more time you play the game, the easier an adjustment will be for you. Now, when you're playing this game, there are endless amounts of resources to double check your build, to learn more about other builds, get a better understanding for what's happening in your game, the game in general. So I recommend trying to find loot filters for Last Epoch specifically. Okay. And you can literally just Google it. And here it is. Shared loot filters, Last Epoch. It's a second website. They only have 2 games on it. And you can scroll and scroll and scroll. You'll find endless amounts of builds with guides and their recommendation on what to hide and what not to hide for your loot. So eliminating, I'm playing on a rogue. I'm farming for my rogue. I'm not going to want to get Sentinel, gear. I can't wear Sentinel gear anyway. I don't need it. So I'm going to eliminate the ability to pick it up. I'm going to be aware of what I can and I cannot do and things like that. So yeah, that's my recommendation. That's my entire beginner guide. It's once you get to a certain level and you're comfortable playing the game, come back, rewatch the video, double check what's happening. Maybe you play a little bit more and then you're like, okay, cool. I think I'm ready for other people to tell me other things. I'm not like specifics and certain builds. The pros and cons of each build they're going to be noticeable, and some of them are incredibly strong. Some of them aren't. Like I think this build is incredibly strong, but there's other builds that are as strong or if not stronger in their own unique kind of way. My gear's not too good. There's some things I can do for sure to improve it. But only time will tell when I can get there or not. All right, I'm gonna close out with a little bit of gameplay here, and we'll catch you in the next one. All right, peace.